The views and opinions expressed in these historical letters that may contain vernacular used in the World War II era, the post-war era, and the Cold War era do not reflect the views and opinions of any of the individuals involved with this project, including, but not limited to, the podcast's creators. Morning, Jamie.
Good morning, Allison.
How are you doing this morning?
Look at that cat.
Mm-hmm.
Look at him. He's like, I need to be up here on my pedestal.
Yep.
I'm going to put Odie on a pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
He's so cute, though. Look at him. Sorry.
No,
I'm good. I got my coffee.
Same.
You got your coffee. We're good.
Mm-hmm. Got
to match your cup to your necklace.
I did, but this is the new one from Starbucks this year. Starbucks, who does not sponsor this podcast, it's all gold with gold poinsettias. Yeah, exactly. Call us Starbucks. I've got my coffee necklace on, so I'm just in a very coffee kind of mood.
I love it, though. It's wonderful. I like it. Yeah, this is so, for our audio listeners, you know the Call Me? Yeah. This is how you can age people.
Oh my gosh, it is.
Yeah, and so it's like, so instead, like, this is how you, which is stupid. This is dumb. Mm-hmm. Why would you do that when you can do it like this?
You know what? I recently heard from like that even the newer generations still use the roll down the window for the car gesture, but they've never actually had to do anything other than press a button. But this wouldn't make sense. So what can you do?
Well, I got to figure that some mechanism within the door is rolling.
Mm-hmm. Something.
When you push it down. But yes.
Yeah. But we've never had to actually work for it. So.
We have explained to the children what it means. There's a thing. They know. They've seen it. Mm-hmm. Maybe future generations will see it in a museum.
Yeah. And then they'll wonder, why are all these gestures being made by these people back then? What did it do? We're just going to think it and it's going to happen. There's not even going to be a button to press. Ooh, scary. The world, tech's getting crazy. But anyway, we're back with today's story. We're going to rewind the technology a good deal. Actually, we're going to show some technology from long ago in this episode. That's super exciting.
Oh, she's very excited about this.
I'm very excited about this episode because every now and then, well, we all know, and maybe we don't, maybe there's some new listeners here who don't know. My grandmother, Sweetie, by the 50s, she and her husband, Lou, are really getting into the antiques business. And they're really starting to acquire some items that are of great interest, and some things they're going to let go of in her quest to buy more, I don't know, cool looking chairs, because she's really obsessed with that. But she's going to keep some other items, and we're going to get to talk today about an item that's been in the family collection since 1950 that she absolutely kept, and we're going to get to see it, and we're going to get to hear it, which, ooh, you'll know when we get there. Everybody will know. So we'll just leave it at that for now, with regards to that. Also, this is the first letter we're going to be presenting from 1951, Jamie.
1951. So we have gotten through. So we started in the first letter, I want to say it was 1939.
It was 41, I think.
You know what?
40, 41.
I have a book here.
Yeah,
I have a book.
What did we give as the first letter? It was the beginning. Yeah, I think there is a letter from 39. It just has to do with like car insurance, I think. I'm not sure we presented it.
Oh, you know what? I think you're right. Okay, so we started in 1940 officially. Mm-hmm. We were in 1940. And so now we've got 10 years of letters under our belt.
We did.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. So now we're in 1951, starting a new decade. Very exciting. And we only have one letter for today.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the longest letters that I have ever seen. I just kept flipping pages. And the margins on these pages are very small.
Yes, I said it to narrow.
So, like, this is a really cool, this letter, I love these very, very long letters. Mm-hmm. But yeah, but we're back, we're into 1951 now. So let's do like a quick recap of like our episode 87.
So yeah, in the previous episode, we learned that there was this giant storm that rolled through the mid-Atlantic, basically Ohio to, it seems like, the Maryland, southeastern Pennsylvania area, all the way through New York. Very deadly storm that rolled through. And so Sweetie gave her recap of what she experienced in this storm coming through at the end of the year. And then she said they're planning for Christmas. Now, we know that Lou, her husband, who's been working as a member of the United States Navy, he's at NAS Willow Grove. He was going to be working at the base on Christmas Eve. So plans a little bit up in the air for Christmas Day. Sweetie was going to have to get things together. We do know that she acquired a train set for little Lewis from the neighbors. And she's like, I'm not sure if this is a great idea because little Lewis is still 5 years old and those old train sets can be quite complicated and have a lot of moving parts and little pieces. So we'll see what happens with that. But that's basically the setup as we head into 1951. But the other thing we do have to talk about is where the Korean War is, because that's going on in the background of everything else. And last we heard was that Pyongyang had been taken. We also know, however, that the Chinese had come in on the side of the North Koreans and had moved on over to the border and had started to fight with the UN forces. So just to catch up what's going on with the war in Korea, because that was a very real concern and it needed to be a very real concern. There's two terms that I'll put them up on the screen too so people can get used to it, because I think it's appropriate to call the armies what they were. There were two main forces from North Korea at this point. One is the KPA, and that's the Korean People's Army. Now, these are on the side of North Korea. And they're allied with the PVA. So if you're going through the history books, you're going to see KPA, PVA. KPA, Korean People's Army, PVA, the Chinese People's Volunteer Army. That's what the PVA stands for. So you see KPA and PVA are going to launch an attack. They're going to plan this for New Year's Eve of 1950. And with superior numbers, and using trumpets and gongs to disorient what's going on, which is really fascinating, like the sound element coming in here. They're going to launch what they're going to call the third phase offensive. And not only are UN forces going to be out of North Korea at this point of the story, they've been starting, it's tough to hold enemy territory. By January the 4th of 1951, we're going to run into some real problem in the South Korean side as well. So, Jamie, I think the best way to present this is to show you the newspaper on New Year's Day of 1951, to show you that head count. And we're just going to roll it forward a few days. And in a short amount of time here, within 5 days, we're going to see the disaster that's going to occur, basically, here. As a result, this is not good for the UN forces as we start the war, and this is the papers that Sweetie would have seen in the morning, of course. So the first one here, this is the Philadelphia Inquirer's headline. On January the 1st of 1951, it says, for our audio listeners, Reds open major offensive on Seoul. So at this point, they're already back into South Korea. Collapse of Allied division reported. And there's a map there on the screen. I suggest people, look into this if they're curious how exactly this happened. But basically, New Year's Eve, attack goes in, and they're focused on attacking Seoul. And Seoul's really close to the North Korean border. So this is not good. If we fast forward a day from this paper, because I'm just going to run by headlines, basically. Reds push the UN line back 11 miles now. It says enemy advance threatened to split Allied front wide open. So if on January 1st, the paper said the Reds are advancing on Seoul, now they're back 11 miles. The implication is Seoul might not be in UN hands anymore at this point.
Ooh.
As we proceed into the paper on January the 3rd, it's starting to look even worse, of course. All right, now we've got the South Korean government itself flees the capital city of Seoul. So the UN forces push back. Now the government is fleeing from the KPA and the PVA that's doing this attack. And we've only got I think one more paper left here that we're going to show. Reds enter Seoul. Last of Allies leave. Navy ready to move troops out by sea. So at this point, long story short, as of January 4th of 1951, the North Korean forces, supported by the Chinese forces, have retaken the South Korean capital of Seoul.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And this is not going to be a situation that's going to change until later in January, after the point of the letter we're about to read. So just updating where we are with the Korean War. Not good. Not a good start to 1951.
Now these papers too,
Mm-hmm.
when you were flashing these up on the screen,
Yep.
and I was looking at them, you can see too. There was articles of Philadelphia soldiers from the Philadelphia area who were killed.
Mm-hmm.
So this is having the impacts, the war has. Here and then here also there's another article. This is fascinating to me, being able to see these old newspapers.
Yeah.
In complete
the sequence, I guess, just seeing it
well, it's like that you can see the entire paper. It's not just bits and pieces. You can see the entire front page. And here we have the 82nd Congress convenes under threat of war.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about what's happening currently in our nation, that there was talk of going to Venezuela, going to war. And both of us, I think, and many libertarians, actual libertarians, are against war.
Yep.
So this is very important for us to see, like, what war has done to our country, what war was doing to the country in Sweetie's time.
Yeah. But it was a very different holiday season that year, for sure.
Yeah, this is it's very demoralizing. We are the United States of America, and to like have this happen, being pushed out after gaining that, those footings, it can be demoralizing.
Yeah, they'd gotten to a point. And the other thing we have to remember is we talked about how General MacArthur, who's in command, had that Wake Island conference where he couldn't be bothered to go to Washington and talk to Truman. Truman had to go to him. And then Truman has, of course, the assassination attempt on his life. We covered that in one of the recent episodes. But this is, all of it going on at the same time. I think the tagline we have on the website is, it was never a simpler time.
It wasn't.
It just wasn't. Yep. So,
and when you think that it was never a simpler time. Oh, it was never a simpler time. You kind of have that good feeling. No, when you think about it for a little bit, consider it for a little bit. That's right. It's never a simpler time. But so that's where we were with the Korean War.
Yep.
This is where things are currently in the world. And it's very important that's something that we have been committed to, is giving more attention to the Korean War.
Yep.
And it's actually honestly fascinating me because I'm not a history person. So this is like how I'm getting this history, and this is probably the best way because it's the most fun. So that's where we are at. But coming back to Sweetie's world, going back from the world stage and then coming back into Hatboro, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
We are on episode 88.
We are on episode 88. Yeah, this mega letter is a really special one just because it paints the scene so much as to what's going on as we start the new year with Sweetie. All right, and heading into the first part of this gigantic mega, I don't know if I have enough words for it.
Super duper ultra mega.
I like it. There we go.
Super duper ultra mega letter.
Yep. Hi everyone, this is Allison. Before we get started with the letter for today's episode, I did want to note that there are 2 omissions occurring within the text of the letter as presented today. Those 2 omissions are represented by ellipses marked in red, one in the first video and one in the second video, so early in the content of today's letter. The omissions have occurred simply because the words as presented by Sweetie, as written by Sweetie, would be considered offensive to individuals who are Jewish. And so for professional reasons, despite the content being that of a historical letter, and despite the disclaimer that we put at the beginning of every single episode about the vernacular used in these letters at times, I find it very difficult to give voice today to the text as was written by my grandmother. So that's why the red ellipses will appear on the text, on the screen, and the words that were provided from the letter will go unvoiced. Thank you. County Line Road, Hatboro, Pennsylvania, January 15th, 1951. Dear Mama and Papa and all, it is time I got this long-promised letter started, and it will probably be a long one, so everybody gets settled and commence. As I wrote before Christmas, Lou had duty on Christmas Eve, so I had to trim the tree and put the final touches on myself, after laboring diligently to get the house as clean and pretty as I wanted it to be. I got the 2 boys across the street to come and set up the train tracks and accessories for me, as it was something I had no knowledge of. It didn't take them long, and they did a nice job of it, and when they left I started trimming the tree and putting away boxes, etc. It was 3:40 before I had scrubbed the kitchen floor, shampooed my hair, and taken a bath. Louis didn't wake up as early as I thought he would. I was awake first, and turned on the Christmas tree and was starting coffee, when I heard him thrashing the covers and got to the door in time to see him wake up, remember what day it was, saw the look of anticipation and something of fright, for he had been warned that Santa Claus came to see only good boys, and then he looked up and saw me standing there. I deliberately pulled a long face, and had to stop when he read the look on my face and was beginning to pucker up. He was delighted with the trains, said it was just what he wanted, though he had said no before, and learned how to run it, work the switches, slow it up and speed it up, work the signal gates and all, in very short order, I thought. We kept the tree up for about 2 weeks, and when we took it down, I talked him into boxing up the trains and keeping it like new for next Christmas, when Santa will set it up again. I doubt if it will stick for very long, but it was something of a relief to get it up out of the way. During the Christmas days, Lou was having duty every other night, and was very tired of it, plus standing the watches in the cold, and so on the 28th, his birthday, he took a week's leave. On New Year's Day, Elizabeth and Bob brought G-Mom up here, and then the next day, Tuesday the 2nd of January, we loaded up and went to New York for a short visit. I fixed a big pot of chili and baked a cake and nut bread and fixed a bowl of fruit salad to take along as Marguerite was working, and it seemed in a position to make her come home from work at 5 minutes of 7 and cook for all of us after we'd been running from antique store to antique store all day. It was a big success, if I might say so, and I'm glad I went to the extra work to do it. We went to the Salvation Army on Tuesday afternoon, and then to the Metropolitan Museum, and to a couple of shops, and by then it was time to go home. The Salvation Army, if visited every morning at 9:15 when the new stock goes on the floor, would be a good source for picking up odds and ends of real value. Lou found an old Hitchcock chair with no seat but with all 4 legs and the carved or turned centerpiece on the back and a wide center slat. He bought it for either 25 or 50 cents, I'm not sure which, thinking it would be good for parts alone, but now he has about decided to fix it up and replace the back spreader or rung, and have a seat put in it, and use it for stock. We missed a good Windsor chair by about 5 minutes, but I'm learning not to grieve over what we just missed or what is priced beyond our means. We got a lot of interesting pointers from the museum, but as always, we had to look and run, and I'd like to go and spend much more time there than we did. There is an opportunity shop, that is the name of it, where some wealthy people donate things, and after their sale, a percentage goes to the donor's favorite charity, and the rest goes to the store, and they do get some wonderful things there, and for some reason or another they don't seem to get very smart in pricing their things. Some of them are outlandishly high, and some of them are dirt cheap. We also went to a used furniture auction house where the furniture was on display, but the auction doesn't take place until Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of this week. And there they had some furniture that literally made my mouth water. A small oak gate-legged table that would stand scarcely higher than a modern coffee table. I believe it might have been a cabinet maker's model that I'd dearly love to have. An old hanging cabinet that I believe might have been Dutch. It is a real museum piece with the oldest known hinges, cotter pins, an old Queen Anne lowboy, and then there were a couple of other pieces that were of considerable age that interested me. All in all, there were about 4 or 5 pieces that would be worth buying, but as I said, the auction doesn't come off until this weekend, and they go at auction, and there is just no telling how they'd go, and it would be an expensive trip to make for nothing, if we did have the money, which we don't. We asked Joe to bid on them for us, but he has been signed for another TV show, and their rehearsal days are the days of the sale, and he can't afford to let the show go by, and Marguerite has to work. So I guess we'll just be out of luck. If I had the money to go and pay the price that they might bring, I'd go myself, but I'm just afraid they'll bring some pretty good prices. On Wednesday, we made the stop at the Salvation Army, the Opportunity Shop, and then went on the prowl from antique shop to antique shop. We mostly looked, but for several blocks on 3rd Avenue there is nothing but antique stores, and so we could spend the entire day right there. On Thursday morning, we got up and went to the Salvation Army and then started home. I found and bought for Louis a good wool-covered top coat for $2.50. There is scarcely a worn place on it, but the lining had been damaged by a hot iron. The woman priced it at $3.50 and acted as though she thought it was a bargain. I looked it over, picked it to pieces, and when I remarked, the lining would cost me well over $1, she cut the price to allow for it. And I bought it just like that. It will have to be put away until he is 8 or 9 years old, but even so, at that price, it was a good investment. It is a pretty coat, and with a heavy inner lining, it could do for a winter coat, though I think I shall keep it for what it was intended. Just a good top coat. We started home at 12:30 and arrived home just 2 hours later. From here, we take a back road and eliminate the traffic and lights on Lincoln Highway. Louis was pleased with the prospects to going under the river in the Holland Tunnel and riding the Pulaski Skyway, which is in itself a lot of fun and interesting too.
Mm-hmm. That was so much.
Yeah.
I do love that they went to see Joe and Marguerite in New York, because Joe and Marguerite will often come down.
Yep, for the holidays.
Yeah, for the holidays, and so this way they didn't have to travel. And how considerate of her to bring food so that Marguerite, who is a working woman.
Yeah.
Joe and Marguerite have no children.
Yep.
And to my knowledge, they had none. Correct?
Yep. Yeah, I don't know of any if they're out there. So
yeah, oh yeah,
yeah.
They had one. So. So it was very nice that she was able to go up, and they were able to take G-Mom Graham with them.
Yep.
And go do a little bit of shopping.
Yeah, and then the other thing is they talk about the drive. They're taking the back way back. Louis is enjoying the tunnel. Who doesn't as a kid? Like, ooh, you just magically appear in a city. That's always, I'm always fascinated with the tunnel out by you, Jamie, the one that opens up onto Pittsburgh. There's videos of that online. I was so depressed that one time I drove out there. I thought I was going to go through the tunnel, and I was like psyching myself up for it. I was like, oh, this is the cool tunnel, and it opens up on Pittsburgh. If you haven't driven around there, everybody, you're missing out. It's really neat. And then my route didn't take me that way, and I was super
But it was okay, because I got to be there when you went through the Fort Pitt Tunnel coming from the airport into the city. It is one of the most spectacular views, and honestly should be experienced in person. Like, the videos really don't do it justice. So I was really glad to be there and like watch you see that.
The one other thing that I wanted to mention, though, is for people who are not familiar with the Philadelphia area, she mentions the Lincoln Highway. That is like the most dangerous road in southeastern Pennsylvania. So if you happen to be around Philadelphia, find another back road that's not the Lincoln Highway. You're not ready for the Lincoln Highway. You might think you are, and you drive around other cities. No. So just the warning from Love Sweet Podcast. Find another way. I'm sure it was a little different in 1951. It's notorious now. So just, yeah.
I bet it was bad then. And I bet it's like 10 times worse now. It's crazy. It is, the east side of the country, because like even in Cincinnati and places out in Pittsburgh, you see these things. It's like they clearly didn't have the space to do things, and they were not expecting the volume of traffic that we have today.
And they can't make it wider, because at most points around the Lincoln Highway, there's a river running on the side of it. So it's not like they could just be like, oh, we'll build over here. In like some other areas of the country, they can do that. I've been on the big interstates around Atlanta. They are terrifying, because there's 8 lanes on both sides. It's kind of crazy. You can't do that in old Philadelphia. It's like, well, look, a tunnel. And then everyone's zoom, and it's not good. It's not good. Find another way around Philadelphia.
So they did a little bit more of their antique work.
Yep.
They went around and looked for some more things, and didn't really get anything. But it seems like they did have a nice little Christmas holiday. And Louis was able to take off his birthday, the 28th.
Yeah.
Isn't that when this episode's airing too?
Oh, yeah, that's right. This episode's going to air on the 28th, so it's airing on Lou's birthday. Happy birthday, Lou. But heading into the next part of our tale here, the antiques continue. As Elizabeth and Bob were going out that night, we had to take G-Mama on down to Yaden and looked up some ads for their paper for 2 Regina music boxes for sale. We went to see them both. One of them, for $35, was practically worthless, though it might have been worked on and made to work better. It was a poor one, in a not-too-desirable oak cabinet, and so we went to see the second one. And it was everything the other one wasn't. A cherry cabinet in beautiful condition, played very well with beautiful tone, and had the exceptional number of 87 discs or records to go with it. But it was at the awful price of $100. The discs sell for $1.50 in most shops, a piece, that is, and so after considerable argument, we took it down $20. But, while we are looking at it, it had been put down cellar for storing. I got to looking around and found under several boxes an old captain's chair. It was beautiful, and I wanted it immediately, but tried not to show how interested in it I was. It is sometimes hard to restrain the pleasure at finding something like that, and not show how badly I really want it. She said it belonged to her husband, and to his mother and father before him, and to somebody else before them. I asked if he was particularly fond of it. I could see where someone had been trying to get through the many layers of paint to the original wood, and she said no, she didn't think he was, and would probably sell it. We went back that same night on our way home, and he had returned from work. Just as we both feared, he wouldn't sell it right now, as it was a keepsake of his parents. But if he should decide to sell it, he'd give us first chance at it. I gave them my name and address, but have little hopes of ever getting it, for if they decide to sell it, they'll tack a price onto it to compensate them for the family remembrances, and no doubt it will be far in excess of its value. But, though I learned a long time ago that it does no good to cry over something you can't have, I sure could have cried over that chair. The heck of it is that I find something like that and say, we could get a good price for that in a shop of our own. And if I could get it cheap enough, I'd buy it for stock, and then once we acquire a find that has to be cheap, because we don't buy expensive things, I think, we didn't pay such a lot for that, and it is a nice piece, and I'd like to have that myself. Some day I dream of furnishing our house in early Americana, and you'd be amused to hear Lou when I decide I'd like to keep that or that for us. It is the old, here we go again stuff. Our fondest dream is of Lou's staying in the Navy for the remainder of his 20 years, about 12 years now, and during that time collecting as much as we can on our small excess of money, and then opening a real antique store. Or else holding what we collect for as long as we can and sell it outright at auction. You'd never believe the money that is spent for antiques. I'd like to bank this for a moment in all of the listeners' minds, their fondest dream, that little paragraph. And 20 years down the line, 30 years down the line, let's see if she achieves what she's calling out as her. It's very specific what they want to do. Lou serves a full 20 years in the Navy, and they have an antique store. So the question is, did that happen? And the entire tale of the podcast is going to slowly reveal if, now that they've set that as their goal, if they're ever going to meet that. So, but they're on their path. They're on their path right now.
And they clearly are. And it's gotten, actually, they're so far along this path that Lou, it calls out her behavior like, oh, this is what she does all the time. She wants to keep it for herself. And it's actually funny because she does keep, because a few episodes ago, they acquired a Seth Thomas clock.
That's right.
And your father still has this clock.
He has the clock.
See, so there she kept that. and Lou knows his wife, and he's like, oh, here we go again. We could just keep this. We didn't spend that much money on it, and I really seriously do love it.
Yep.
And but I love that this is how she knows who she is. Yeah. She's like, I love this Americana. I want this. I want my house to be furnished in beautiful pieces. And she has very high standards. Like, she doesn't, when she finds something she knows is good, of course she wants to keep it.
Oh, yeah.
She makes me laugh.
But this leads back to the title of this episode, which I think people seeing this on the website, if you looked in advance or saw just when you clicked onto the video, the name Regina, I'm guessing a lot of people thought there's a new character coming into the story that just happens to be a woman named Regina. Nope. It has nothing to do with a person. It has to do with this delightful, delightful object known as the Regina, which she talks about in this part of the letter when she acquires one. Now, she sees two, and she's like, one, not good quality. Second one, oh my gosh, quality. And then she mentions these records. She talks about these other pieces that it's like $1.50 each to get these items. And it might be something that would be hard to understand for people, especially because Reginas aren't really talked about that much. And it's a very unknown antique item to a lot of people. However, this item has survived the test of time and has remained with the family, as well as dozens and dozens of what does she call them? The discs. I just want to make sure I'm using the right term, actually.
She calls them records.
She calls them records, I think.
Well, I think she's saying this is like a record, but it's not. It's not a record.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she said the discs. She calls them the discs. So people might be wondering what the discs are, and I'm happy to report that even though she might not have picked them up at that time, they made a real goal of acquiring a lot. We have dozens of the discs. And so the beautiful thing is it's still in working order. But I'd like to just give a little background on Regina, and I'm going to show some pictures of what it looks like, and then we're going to get to hear it. I do have a video I'm going to play. We have it playing holiday music. There were holiday discs at the time, but this is the earliest idea. If you've ever seen the picture of the little dog with his head in like a gramophone, you see the speaker, that's the Victor. This is prior to the Victor. So the Regina is the Regina Company. It was really based in New Jersey, which explains why they're kind of being found around antique stores at this time in the Philadelphia area. And they really shipped these between 1892 and 1921. The piece that she picked up is probably from that early round. It's probably late 1890s or early 1900s as an item. So just to show some pictures of it, so you can see the full display. This is a closed Regina. This sits in the dining room. It always has. It remains there to this day. I would never move it. It's the disc we store inside. Just to give you an idea of the width, it's a square in shape. It's about 1 foot tall and about 2.5 feet wide on each side. So it's a rather large music box. So if you're thinking about like a little tiny music box or something like that, get that out of your mind. This is like the records, the discs for this are larger than vinyl. So that's the closed Regina. I'm going to bring up a picture now of it once it's open, when we open the top so that you can see that. So it's got its brand right on top. Really beautiful. She talks about the cherry wood. She really liked the look of this one. They probably were made of different. This one is in cherry. And then this is the music box mechanism that is on the side. That little arm is going to help hold the metal disc in place as it plays. I do have a close-up on these metal tines so that you can see that. And this is what it's going to read when a disc goes around. So this is what's going to rotate as the disc goes around. It's going to get caught on these little tines, and it's going to make the music sound. There is a speed control. You see on the bottom right-hand corner, it says slow. So you can go slow or a little faster. There's no volume control. You can put the lid down. This is the 1890s. I can't do much about that.
And like when I see this, and this is actually, I did not know what a Regina was until I came to your house, and you knew that this letter was going to come up, and you showed me this. But when I saw this, and I think a lot of other people in my generation would remember this too, Fisher Price put out like a little record player, and it was like a little toy.
Yep.
And it was a record, but it had those kind of like the arm of the record player looked like that.
Yep.
And then when the record spun around, it would play the music. And man, if I could get a toy, that would be the one I would want. Yeah. And this reminds me of this. This is like a much more complicated version of that.
Yeah.
It's beautiful too. It's so amazing. Like that this is the condition this thing is in.
It's in wonderful condition. It's maintained and working hard. We weren't allowed to play with it as kids.
There you go.
My dad was just like, you're not allowed to touch that. Like, Sweetie watched out for it to be like, See,
now I just want to touch it. Next time I come to your house, I'm just going to touch it.
Yeah, now it's like, The danger is like there's a crank on the side. You can over crank it and sort of mix some things up, because the idea like is to like, oh, we'll just crank it a lot and then it'll go, and like there's parts about that. Apparently Dad's like, even today he's like, don't over crank the the Regina and things like that. But his favorite one, we're gonna let his favorite one, I'm probably gonna put up a playlist of Regina music so that everybody can just listen to it throughout the holidays. It's December 28th when this is airing, so I figured we'd play one of the holiday tracks. So here's what it sounds like, and we're gonna let it play a Christmas classic here for everybody.
Yay!
Yeah. I paused it on the screen, as some people might have seen this. There's a little gap. Like, so basically for our audio listeners, there's like these little what do you call them? Indents or something, basically little holes that the music box moves over. Where the arm is right now on the screen, so our audio listeners, if you go to the YouTube video and you listen to this and you look at it, there's a blank spot. That's the reset of the song, because there's just nothing. So it knows every time you start a song, you know to start at the blank spot. So when it gets going, it starts at the right part of the tune. You don't have to like try to find it somewhere else in there. But yeah, it's a brilliant.
That is sounded amazing.
Yeah.
It really did. It sounded really good. And so this was something that they had to play.
Oh yeah. So I mean,
this was an antique in her time.
Yeah, she was intrigued by it because I mean, this is the music from like the 1890s, 1900s. So this is an absolute antique in her time. But it's so fascinating. You know, you can only listen to so much of it, I think, in one sitting. Because it is the music box sound. But think about the time when you think about early records. You have the very small records. They usually only could contain like 3 to 5 minutes on a side of a record, the old vinyls. So this is about a good like 2 to 3 minute before we get to the vinyls. The fact that they could do a 2-minute track of a full song. So I love some of these discs because they actually have songs that they're Americana, but they're songs that have been lost to time. Things people don't sing anymore. They're fascinating. I know some of them just from studying Civil War things, but a lot of like the old songs of America aren't sung anymore, and they're preserved on like a disc like this, and you get the beautiful sound of them. Of course, all instrumental. You can't hear any voices or anything like this on something like this. But we can see where it's going to evolve into. It's going to evolve into the Victors, the gramophones, and leading to the modern record players with the vinyls and things like that, and then on out. But this is really the first time that without using instruments that people can have at a very low relative cost music in their home to be able to play in the background instead of the woman playing at the piano. That's great if you have that. But like, imagine just like the general American family that just wants to listen to Christmas carols, right? They can do that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like you'd probably have this sitting in a different room.
Yep.
Like you wouldn't have this sitting in the room that you were like having dinner in because it would be very loud. But you could have that and it would just play a few times.
Right.
I mean, this is what they had. Right. You know, it's cool to see the beginnings of in-home musical entertainment, you know, because it is, I listen to music constantly. I am constantly have music on. it's been one of the things I think that has been the best at helping me like complete tasks. And when you have a little bit of background music on, it's much easier to work.
Right.
I don't know why. So it's like I could see that this is really it's a neat place in history.
Yeah.
For like home musical entertainment.
So, yeah, I'm going to work on getting the playlist up online, and I'll put the videos up so people can actually see the spinning disc as they go, and we'll just label it song by song. It'll be a separate playlist on the channel, and people can, to your heart's delight, you can listen to the Regina versions. And I think we probably have somewhere around 60 or 70 of the discs that go with this. So we're going to put a lot of music.
Very much look forward to hearing like a nice little Christmassy playlist on the Regina.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see, you know, and it's really neat.
Yep.
It's just a neat thing. And I love that we have the historical documentation from these letters regarding the acquisition of this piece.
Yep.
Which just makes it all the more special. And I just can't wait to touch it as soon as I get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
The next time I'm over, I'm just going to be like, oh, no, I'm sorry. I got to go touch the Regina real quick. Because your grandma didn't want me to. But anyway,
don't
I appreciate you sharing. This is a really cool piece, and I'm so glad that you saw it.
Oh, yeah. And then moving on with our mega letter here, we're going to go into part 3.
We got so much more to go.
Incidentally, I'm sending first to Daddy and Mama a magazine that I picked up at Joe's and leafed through, and found the pictures and article written up about the snuff box presented to Reverend John Demarest by His Royal Highness the Duke of York. Joe loaned it to me, and I believe he expects it back. However, I'll go to a used bookstore and see if I can't find another one or two for our own family. This magazine, Antiques, is the epitome in antique publications, and I was quite proud and pleased when I found it. The place is marked with a picture of Louis. You'll not like it, as he is looking the wrong way, and for some reason that I cannot explain, they wouldn't take it until he turned to look at Santa Claus. He was looking directly towards the camera, and it would have made a much better picture, but the Navy photographer held off until he turned to say something, and then took it. We have taken some pictures with the camera you loaned me, and we shall try to send some to you soon. I thought somebody said I was going to receive the Demarest book, but so far I haven't received it. I'd like very much to have it, and believe me, I'd love to own that snuff box. Of course I wouldn't sell it, since it is a part of our family history, but I wonder if you know that tracing a history of something in that sort to royalty, or to a famous man in our history, enhances the value of the article 5 times its original worth. The history in itself is worthless. Rather, the article is worthless with a history, if the original owner was an unimportant and unknown personage. Of course, as long as the snuff box is a part of the Demarest Museum, it would seem foolish to keep it in personal possession. But I believe if I owned it, that is what I would do. Louis helped me take down the tree and put the trimmings away, and is already anticipating next year's visit. We are going to Sunday school regularly most of the time, and he enjoys the kids and his special teacher. I must tell you of yesterday's experience. Our minister is sick, and I don't believe they held church services yesterday. But our new Sunday school superintendent took a long time to tell us the financial status and the problems faced by the growing Sunday school. My class has grown to 3 times what it was when I started going, and Lewis's has had to be split up into 4 groups to accommodate them. We are building a big new Sunday school building, but the way the kids are piling in each Sunday, we're still going to be cramped. Well, he talked for some time about the things at hand, and then when we went to our classes, we held over the time we usually are dismissed, and the kids had already been turned out by their teachers. Some little character with more energy and muscle than brains was having a delirious time grabbing hats and running with them. He grabbed Lewis's and ran with Lewis in hot pursuit, according to what I could glean. Lewis apparently caught him, and as he was about to retrieve his hat, the kid gave him a healthy push that sent Lewis to the ground, and the kid got away before Lewis could get up and start after him. The kid slipped around the corner of the church, and just at that time we were out of Sunday school, and as I walked out the door and started over to the Sunday school building, I heard Lewis let out a bleat for "Mama!" He came tearfully on the run, shouting, "Some boy stole my hat!" I had to shush him up before I could understand what he was saying and decide what should be done, for as I say, some boy could have been any one of 50 to 65 kids milling around like bees in good weather. So finally, when I could get the general picture, I said, "Well, look around and tell me which boy it was, and I'll ask him what he did with it." Just then, around the corner of the church sailed this little kid that I recognized as a troublemaker from the Sundays when I used to help out in the kindergarten classes, and he was waving a hat while somebody was trying to catch him. And when he threw it, I was sure he was my man. Luckily, he was coming right towards me, and I reached out and grabbed him by the coat lapels and hauled him up short so that passing mothers wouldn't realize I was about to shake the teeth out of somebody's little darling, and said, "Did you take his cap?" He started to squirm and said, "No." And I said, "Louis, look at this boy. Is he the one?" And Louis said, "Yes." Realizing, as Papa would say, that the jig was up, he said, "Yes, I did." And when I said, "Where is it?" he said, "I threw it in the road." That did it. I gave him 2 or 3 good healthy shakes, punctuated with, "Well, you go get it and bring it right back and don't ever try it again," and gave him a shove in what I thought was the general direction, and stood and waited. I waited a long time and was beginning to think he had scrammed and started out in the direction he had headed when he came up from behind with the cap. From time consumed, considering the speed he was traveling, he had taken it a good way and thrown it in the road besides. Louis was so pleased with my masterful handling of the situation, though I confess I'd have been somewhat embarrassed if the kid's mother had come upon me growling through my teeth as I had, that he was practically my slave for a full half-hour. However, I lectured him good on crying as he did, and he assures me that from now on any kid who takes his hat will get as good as he gives. And from the rehearsals I've overheard, I believe he will too. He is really quite grown up in some ways, and he does entertain himself quite well for the most part. We got him some watercolors, and Marguerite and Joe got him some too, and he enjoys them a lot. However, he isn't so interested in actual painting as he is in the results he obtains by mixing colors. For the most part, I let him do as he wants, just to see what he will do. He does have a good imagination, and I am sending along some pictures as he has drawn, for Grandpa and Grandma. I shall label them on the back or at the side, but I wish you'd look at them first and decide what they are before you read what he means them to be. The one thing I don't know is whether he decides in advance what he is going to draw and draws it, or if he draws it and then decides what it looks like. I suspect the latter.
Oh my goodness. As a mother, holy that upsets me. But you know what? And she's a little worried maybe about what the other mother would think. If this other mother is allowing her child to run around stealing hats and throwing them and bullying other kids, and I highly doubt she cares. Just saying. Just saying.
She's not watching her child. What was that thing? I've been listening to this clip from the 90s. Remember, it was like the Gen X and millennials. Like, our parents had to remind it, do you know where your children are at night in those commercials? Sunday morning. Hey, stop stealing other kids' hats.
At Sunday school.
At Sunday school, yeah.
Isn't there a commandment about that? Thou shalt not steal.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not stealing them. I'm just throwing them in the road. Well, I think that she handled the situation masterfully. And that is like, that really bothers me. But, you know, it's happened years ago and she took care of it.
Yeah, it's lucky for this kid that it did happen years ago, because the school they're at, the Sunday school they're at, the church they're at, is the Neshaminy Presbyterian Church, which is actually the same church with the cemetery where Farmer Frank is buried. So we saw that little clip of it. This is one of the oldest churches in the county. It has Revolutionary graves in there. It's a really fascinating old little church down by the Neshaminy Creek, but the road that runs next to it, and this is why she thinks she lives in the country, and I've always been kind of like, really, sweetie? She's saying it's 3 times the size the class is. It's because there's a lot of building going on in this immediate area. So this is a little distance from where they're currently living in Hatboro, but it's probably the closest Presbyterian church. And the Bristol Road, which is also one of the oldest roads in the county and in Southeast PA, if something was in the Bristol Road today, I wouldn't want to go onto the road and get it, because it is extremely, extremely busy. It's not Lincoln Highway. I'll put it that way. But it's still a busy road. So back then, probably a little safer, but still.
I mean, and she has been going to Sunday school for a little while, so she recognized it. That's just a person who clearly does not have any kind of structure at home.
Nope.
And that's unfortunate.
She read him the riot act, though.
She certainly did. She took care of it. I would be embarrassed if I was that the other little kid's mother.
Yeah. But I just wish we had the recording of Lewis's practicing for the next time.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, good for him. I mean, I think, and she told him too. Hey, you gotta do something as well.
Stand up for yourself. Yeah,
she's a great mom. I love that, and I love that the church is like, they're definitely getting a lot of people there. That's crazy. She's not used to that. But yeah, that was lovely. That was a lovely little story.
I received in this morning's mail, I've missed the mailman, a letter from Mama and one from Papa that I shall try to answer. I'm glad that you like the gloves, Papa, and the stockings, Mama. I wonder if I should tell you that those gloves are made under Navy contract and sold at small stores over at the base. I had Lou get them for you over there and consequently get good material and quality for less than retail outside by a good bit. I liked them and so got Lou a pair via the neighbor boy who goes in 1 weekend a month on the reserve program. The stockings, Mama, I hope you like the color and hope I remember the right size. I think I shall get them quite easily, so when you need them, write and tell me, and I shall try to get that particular weight. I got twins of them for G-Mom Graham for Christmas, too. We have a nylon hosiery mill not so terribly far from us, and I wonder if I couldn't go there and get them, possibly get seconds at reduction, too. I'm glad you all could get together for Christmas Day. I sure thought of you and remembered the Christmas that Dee came home from hospital, accompanied by his mother, of course, and Papa went in. It was a good Christmas in a way, but I hope we never have another one like it. Amen. So be it. When Lou got home on Christmas morning, Louis opened the rest of his gifts, and after breakfast we started down to Ditt's with an anticipation of a nice day. Elizabeth got Louis roller skates, and he was delighted. He put them on, and Daddy went out with him to see how he would do. He was sure that all he had to do was strap them on his feet and skate off. He was surely surprised. Lou held him by both arms, and Louis was practically horizontal most of the time with his feet far ahead of him, and Lou holding him up. We laughed from inside the house until my stomach hurt, but it was cold and they soon came in. Louis said to me, "Well, Mama, I can't skate. Well, not so good, but I bet I can learn." I got 2 slips, slippers, and an apron. Lou got ties and some antique books, and I asked Elizabeth and Bob for a subscription to Antiques magazine. That sounds like asking for a lot, but remember Bob is in the magazine and paper business and gets subscriptions for a lot less than anyone else could, so I doubt if it cost him so very much, though the usual subscription is $6.50 a year. Louis got lots of shirts, socks, books, and he came to me a day or 2 after Christmas and said, "Mama, you didn't get much for Christmas, did you?" "Well, I got some money for Christmas, and I'm going to save it to buy something for you. What do you want?" He shook pennies and nickels out of his bank to go and buy Lou a tie. He picked it out himself, and when he was satisfied with it, he dumped his pocket full of pennies out on the counter before the open-mouthed clerk. He had selected a little more expensive one than I had planned on, and so I had to ante up about 30 cents before he had enough. He wrapped it himself, which explains why I ran out of stickers. I can picture how you have worked on the garage. Papa's letters describe quite graphically the trouble he had with Ben Williams, and the cold he had to fight, and about having the flu at the same time. I am sure that it will be a fine building, and that you'll enjoy it very much in the years to come. I've been wondering how you were able to fight the snow, etc., to carry on your practice and build too. I wonder who originated the letter you enclosed to Mrs. McFarland. I recognize Jean's initials written by Mama, which to me means she disclaims any responsibility for such literature. I yucked after I had reread it, being somewhat dense at this time of day. Papa enclosed some questions, rather asked some questions at the bottom of his letter that I must answer right now for fear I forget them. How about the presents and train for Louis? He did get lots of presents, as I've already written. The train, of course, was about the only one we bought, aside from the box of paints, modeling clay, crayons, and 2 or 3 books. He did get lots of good out of the trains while we had them up. But there was an extensive outlay of track that took up a good third to 1/2 of our walking room in the living room. We all played with them. Lou worked the speeds, and Louis and I worked the switches and decoupling switch, and we played with it a lot. But it was my idea to put it away before it got to be old hask to him, with the idea that it will be a new toy at some later date. We needed the living room space, and I wanted to keep it nice for next year. Louis's interest in Sunday school has been renewed now that he has been put into a smaller group, rather now that they could split up that big bunch of kids to keep better order and do a better job on stories, etc. That Ben Williams.
I love that. And apparently there were some letters from Chester that went into some more details.
Yeah.
It just makes me laugh to think, because eventually I guess they do finish the garage. It just makes me laugh to think of Chester always going into it every day and like knowing that in that garage buried somewhere was a bottle.
That letter inside.
Make him feel a little bit better about it, but oh my goodness.
That's amazing. And speaking of, just to shout this out, because my father was very upset that we did not give the definition of one of the terms in there. Actually, the letter itself threw me off thinking it was someone's name. But the word sturbug comes up in the letter. This is a very antiquated term, so of course Chester's using it.
Of course.
A stir in the 19th century was another word for a jail. And then directly from my father Louis's message, I want to read just so he gets to say exactly. He wanted to clarify that a sturbug is a mentally disturbed individual due to incarceration. So more vocabulary. Sturbug. There you go. Go back to the letter. You'll understand the concept or the context of that. That's episode 86 for those that want to go back. And if you missed that,
you got to go back and see. That was great.
The letter is for you, the listener. Chester is giving you a message from beyond the grave. He's trying to reach a random stranger that will hear the travails of a man trying to build a garage. So
with just a degenerate and a sturbug. Gosh.
There you go. And he names names, and there they are. So,
Chester should not have to deal with this kind of stuff. He is a doctor.
Right.
But, speaking, we have talked to little Louis wanted to buy something, and he bought his dad a tie, picked it out himself, and then just, can you imagine? He was 5.
Yep.
He was so little and such a sweet boy.
I do not know what will come out of this war, and do not know what the possibilities are for Lou's being shipped out. You remember I wrote you that Joe Rusky had been sent to Whidbey Island, off the coast of Washington State. Olive took M and went there for a few months, but a note on her Christmas card said Joe had received his shipping orders, and so she was returning to her mother in Ottumwa. There have been 2 plane wrecks in that squadron since they left this station. In all, about 7 or 8 of those men were killed. Perhaps you've had news of the airliner that crashed here yesterday in the snow and overcast. I'm glad you like your chime clock. We have one that we resurrected from G-Mom's old house, and then Lou found and bought an old Seth Thomas for $5. We have them both going in the living room, and at night, after we've gone to bed, it sounds like a couple of kids trying to outpound each other on bass drums. I hope your ankle isn't giving you too much trouble now. I remember how mine used to hurt sometime, but it always seemed to heal pretty quickly. I told G-Mom that you had given Mrs. Sufer the old clothes, and she said if you thought it worthwhile, that she would hunt up and send some more. Actually, Elizabeth would be glad for her to get rid of a bunch of them, for she has so much stuff lying around. Sounds like Mrs. Conrad has finally talked herself into getting rid of some part of her anatomy, so she'll have something to talk about. I wonder if Nidra will go to Lowell at Pitt's. We are a good 8 hours by train from there, and I could not offer her much for that reason, but I'm inclined to sympathize with her wanting to get there to be with him. Does he expect overseas duty? Has Bee's husband been shipped out? I wish I could have been with you when Bill and Sister and all came down for New Year's workday, and could have enjoyed your pajama party. The candle to go to bed with is a reminder of living for 2 or 3 days with only candlelight. Lou is licking his chops over some of the wood Papa mentions in his letter. He wants to make a miniature slant-top desk and wants some cherry to make it out of. I believe he may try it in pine first. I rather like the idea of the memento in the bottle, and I'm sure you'll do a good job on it. Right now I'm telling everyone that they should do nothing without dating it. Furniture, embroidery, paintings, anything. I agree, and hope that I shall never live to be as old and helpless as Mrs. McFarland. I do think it is quite an achievement to live a long life, if it is useful, or if it amounts to something more than just vegetating. Sister, I've appreciated your cards and letters and want to thank you for them. Yours was the only card we received on our anniversary, the only one for Lou's birthday, and the only New Year's card. And if I'd had a telephone, I'd have been sorely tempted to call up and find out if this was 1951. I'm returning the pictures you sent with the New Year's card and want you to know that I thought of buying you some picture postal cards at the museum, and just as I got there, they locked the office door. I shall try to get some for you as soon as I can. To go way back to November 18th's letter, I was amused to hear of Dee's hematoma, rather of M's concern for him. And I do hope it is all clear now. I don't believe I shall ever forget the night that Frank fell off the piano bench and came up with a real bloomer. We received your package. I'm sure I wrote to thank you for that. Louis likes the books very much, and I'm pleased with the hanky. The box has been rewrapped at the Philadelphia post office, had your handwritten address cut out and pasted on top. But don't believe there was a thing missing, as there was a full pint of popcorn which we haven't yet tried. I meant to take some with us to New York to pop with Marguerite, Joe, and G-Mom, but had to forget something, and that was it. We haven't yet seen the movies, having some difficulty in getting a projector lined up, but we'll do so soon, and then return them to you. One of your cards says we are snowbound in a 25-inch snow blizzard. Somebody is mistaken. We haven't had 5 inches of snow yet. Oh, I know, that was at Pittsburgh. We had rain by the buckets, but no snow. We can still see markers of that hurricane, and each time I turn on the stove, I'm glad we don't have to live by candlelight and cook by sterno. I hope the mittens fit Dee all right. I had thought I would make each niece and nephew a pair for Christmas and got a pretty fair start on them, and then found I could buy no more yarn temporarily, and with Christmas so soon upon us, I had to give it up. But sent D's and KM's and R's. I shall try to do better next year. If D's don't fit very well, send them back, and I'll rip and re-knit wherever necessary.
So it's really funny because she actually talks about the Chester letter in the book.
Yeah.
That made me laugh.
Talk about those. Yeah. Ooh, someone's gonna find that letter. Yeah, no. There's a lot of updates here with what's going on with family. She's trying to now rapid fire kind of get through some things. But we do get one major update right at the beginning of this section, which is that Joe Rusky is really going over for active duty over to Korea. Mm-hmm. And Joe, of course, had been at NAS Willow Grove. That's how close it is at every single moment that if something really happens, Lou really could be shipped out. People from the Willow Grove area, from NAS Willow Grove, are being sent overseas. And others, unfortunately, there was some loss of life that occurred with people that they probably knew. So that's all really sad. But then we've also got the word that at this point, Olive and Little M were also out there. She did make the decision that Sweetie would have made, which is to go follow out to Washington State. But on to, I think this is, I want to say, the last part of the letter here.
Oh, goodness.
Mega letter, here comes the finale. We've had really fine weather so far. The days we spent in New York were like spring, and until yesterday we have had no call to complain. Yesterday, as we came home from Sunday school, I noticed it was pretty snowy looking, and snow it did, then sleet, then rain, and now it is blowing like mad, and Lou said this noon they were warned to expect winds of over 45 knots. Don't know what that amounts to per hour, but you figure it out. Everyone liked the pictures of the Bolton kids and their mother, and they thought you looked too young to have a daughter as old as M.A. When Dee says, Gaga's baby, pretty shirt, did he mean M's baby was dressed prettier? Or does he call himself Gaga? Mama wrote of the fun you had when you all went for the overnight visit at New Year's. Sounds like you should do it more often. We enjoy our TV and watch it as avidly as we did when it was first new. It works fine, and we would be lost without it. We see a great many of the programs, and perhaps we see all of them that you do. I meant to mark the list of them on the WOI program and return it to you, for I found I was marking practically all of them, and just decided to tell you that we have all of them. I shall return the pictures of your Sussex friends with this letter, and apologize for keeping them too long. I had notes from Aunt Mary, Aunt Sarah at Christmas time that I should answer, and then I shall send them on to you folks. Frank and Maida, I surely did think the picture of your 3 kids were cute, and was provoked to think I temporarily mislaid it when G-Mom was here. She saw the ones of the Bolton kids, and I was going to show her this little one too, but just could not find it, though it was still fastened to the card. I shall take it with me the next time I go to their house so she can see it too. They all have grown so much. I was sorry that Susie was sick, and I know the worry and trials a sick kid can bring, and hope it will not occur again. I enjoyed hearing of F's generosity as far as the unfortunate child at school was concerned, and while I do not want to steal F's thunder, we had the same thing happen to us via Sunday school. We loaded up some of Lewis's toys to give to a family of 9 children, and I had to do some pretty fast talking to keep him from cleaning house. We enjoyed hearing about the old family home in Germany and the antiques they have. Lou just read it and groaned, "Would I like to get into that house?" I wished we had a phone when the phone company was out on strike, so I could have visited with Frank. I thought Little A's adaptation of the commercials was quite funny, and hope you'll write them oftener. Florence, did you receive the mittens I sent to KM and R? I sent them while the railroad strike was still on, and wonder if they might have gotten lost. I was surprised to have Jean's package take from December 12th to December 27th to get here. 15 days seems almost absurd to me. That is less than 15 miles per day. I couldn't insure them, but sent them first class as they were just 8 ounces. I'd like to hear about their Christmas and how you are, etc., if you'll find time to write. Jean, I wonder if you know how much your little notes and cards meant to Louis. Even now he rushes to ask if there is any mail for him, and if there isn't, he says, "Well, I can pretend this is for me and open it up." I wrote you that your package arrived and how pleased with the pants and shirt we are. They will be fine for next year at school, and I'm grateful for them. I know you must have enjoyed all that vacation time. We did, and Lou only had a week. I got a nice card and then later a note from Helen that so far is unanswered, but I shall try to get around to it soon. I'm glad you're getting an idea of what it is like to go without mail, and you understand, too, what it is to stay at home and wait for it. You seem to have had a lot of fun during your vacation and getting ready to celebrate Christmas, but excuse me if I laugh a little over your remark, "Wash sweaters and lingerie today," and feel as if I'd killed a bear. Yuck, yuck. Sounds as though you made out like mad at Christmas, and I'm pleased for you. I received Dexy from you and Papa on the same day, but so far haven't had the courage to start my reducing. Wish I were like Maida and lost it just by taking Dexy. I envy you your dining and dancing during the holidays, but please don't insult my intelligence by defining or describing hors d'oeuvres. I ain't that stupid. You didn't tell me the date of Glenn's birthday and then delayed sending the letter so I couldn't send him a card, for I don't know when it was. Oh yes, Jean, do you think that we could get some tires, 600 by 16 through Glenn, or has he used up all his allotment? We are using the original tires that came on this car, and they are really bald, and Lou thinks we ought to be thinking about the new ones. I said I'd at least write and ask, but if Glenn says he doesn't think so, we'll try to get them here. Also, he said he would like to have some more stuff like this strip I'm enclosing, only in a finer grade, I think. I think it came from Lakeshore, too, and perhaps they'd donate a little more to a good cause. I have prattled on and on long enough, and so I shall stop with a promise to Jean that I shall try to do justice to her last letter very soon. I have several enclosures for the folks and sister, and so shall stop now. Hope everyone is all right, and that I'll hear from all of you soon. Love to each of you, and especially to Mama and Papa, Sweetie, Lou, and Louis.
My goodness, she packed a lot into that letter.
A ton. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And of course, Jean was at the end. This is typical, but
yeah.
we know that her and Gene have been having a little bit of a tension there, and that came through with this letter too. Like, what did she say? I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, she's like, you know how it is not to receive letters now.
Oh, and then she's like, I know what hors d'oeuvres are, Gene.
Yeah.
I'm like,
there's still some tension. We're gonna keep brewing that tension a little more as we go into the next episode, into episode 89, Wrestling with My Conscience. There's gonna be a little more content for Gene, and then we are going to get into the big one where we're gonna everything's gonna be laid on the table. So if you're wondering what's going on with Gene and what's going on with Glenn and Sweetie and Lou and that whole relationship, it's coming in the next 2 weeks. It's gonna lead to quite as we head towards the season 2 finale that is not too far away. We have to resolve this tension, this thing that's going on, and we're going to find out what has been communicated, what's upsetting Sweetie so much about that. But she's had a lot to deal with in the meantime. She's had this giant storm and now all of this other stuff around Christmas. So
Christmas time is always chaotic. Yeah,
she's letting that sit for a little bit, but it's about to it's about to blow its top over there with regards to the Gene and Glenn storyline. But that's it for today's episode. Everybody, we hope you enjoyed this mega letter from Sweetie as we dive into 1951 now. And with that, we continue to approach the end of the season. So we hope to see you back next week with the continuation of the story.
Bye, everyone.